God be with you. I am calling us to order. Thank you all. All right, I'm feeling tall today, apparently. Welcome to all of you who are here in the room, and welcome to those of you who are joining us online. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to dream and hear what the vision is thus far about our backyard. So I am going to remind you that if and when you have questions, please come up to the microphone. It helps us to be inclusive of everyone in the room and everyone online. We can't pick it up online if you're just kind of shouting from your seat. So please come up to the microphone to make comments or questions, okay? All right, let us pray. This is from Psalm 19, verses 1 through 4. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they display knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I have the honor of introducing our guest speaker today. We are here to kick off the design of the backyard, a project that will transform the south side of our church. Am I pointing correctly? Yes, that way. South side of our church into a new and inviting space to gather, worship, hang out, and have fun, have some fellowship together. Scott Inman, Wade Thompson, and Jody Mansbach will lead us through this introduction. You all likely already know Scott and Wade, parishioners here. Jody is with Playlark Studio, and she has extensive experience working to create and design innovative play spaces for kids, youth, and adults. In fact, she was the lead designer for the top of Pont City Market. Yeah, so let's welcome them.
Thank you. And I'll tell you that Caroline Fouché is going to be joining as well as we talk this morning. So thanks everybody for being here, and good morning. So Caroline, Wade, Jody, and I are excited to have the opportunity to outline the backyard project and prepare for Design Day next Sunday. You know, COVID has helped us all learn to appreciate outdoor spaces. And St. Luke's during COVID, you know, we took advantage of our garden for worship, funerals, and celebrations. At Christmas 2020, we even learned that our north parking lot could be used as a drive-in theater for Christmas services. But our journey to the backyard project starts with Cradle St. Luker and former vestry member Jimmy Cushman, who couldn't unfortunately be here today. But I get the honor of telling Jimmy's story about Jimmy and the backyard project. So long before COVID, Jimmy and a handful of others were part of a ritual of staying up all night to smoke pork for our Pig in the Park barbecues. Being here overnight, if any of you have, you can see the tall buildings and hear the sounds of the city while you're sitting in this park-like setting and the safety that our space enjoys. Out of the sleep deprivation of that experience, Jimmy saw the possibilities of our campus and the incredible space we have on the south side of the nave. Next, while on the vestry, Jimmy led a project along with Tony Johns at Crossroads and the Atlanta Police Department to secure our property better. After the turbulence of Peachtree Pines closing, we had criminal elements who were preying on our neighbors who were experiencing homelessness. As he looked at better gates to safeguard the park and our property, he realized that gates and fences really weren't the answer that fit the mission of St. Luke's. Ultimately, we needed to look at ways to open our sacred space and welcome more people to St. Luke's, not close it off. The next part of the journey turned to Jimmy's family and his involvement with what we do with the Ann Alston Glen playground given in the honor of his great aunt. After 25 years, it was evident that a major renovation or replacement was in order. So as these pieces all came together, on May the 2nd, 2021, Jimmy's mother, Elkin Goddard Alston, passed. Jimmy, his sister Elkin Taylor, and their families were looking for a way to honor his mother. Now, St. Luke's was very much a part of Jimmy's mother's family. Elkin's mother and father had met here. She was baptized and grew up here. She and her brother, Jimmy's Uncle Jimmy, spent countless Sundays together at St. Luke's. Her grandfather, John N. Goddard, had been junior warden. Her father, Philip Alston, had been senior warden. And for those who attend the 8 a.m. service, you know that she and her lifetime best friend, Fontaine Draper, were always there. And now she's buried here at St. Luke's. So Elkin was a social connector. She loved gardening. She liked to have good and fun food, with hot dogs being one of her favorites, by the way. Coke, she loved dogs, and she loved the Braves. So they realized that transforming St. Luke's backyard would be a fitting way for Elkin's love of St. Luke's, its people, and the outdoors to live on forever. Jimmy pulled together a group of foundational donors to put together the backyard project. We've got Gail, Jimmy Alston and family, Jackie and Jimmy Cushman and family, Elkin and Roger Taylor and their families, and the John N. Goddard Foundation have all put together the foundational funding for the backyard project to make this happen. This gift provides us with what we need for the backyard project, and it was also the lead donation for the Prepare You the Way To campaign that got us started on that's going to benefit not just the backyard, but so much around the church in the coming years. The goal for this is for this to be a sacred space that we use to connect people, organizations, and places for generations to come. But as Jimmy has talked with all of us who have supported him as he shepherded this vision to reality, a constant theme has been his and the Cushman, Taylor, Alston families' desire that the backyard reflects St. Luke's vision and engages all of us in making it a reality. To that end, we want and need your input. And we're kicking off today for a design day that's going to take place next Sunday on October the 2nd. We want to gather your input, your ideas, and your enthusiasm, and we'll use all of that as we come up with a plan over the coming months, and then put that plan in place over the coming year or years to transform that space for us and for other generations. So, with that, I'm also going to invite Wade to come up here and, with that introduction, and join me as we talk a little bit about our backyard.
Good morning, y'all. This is a really exciting time for all of us, especially for me as a designer who looks at things and thinks, what could this be? How awesome could this be? I'm always thinking about what if, right? And if you have this much land, this park, this beautiful space, right between Midtown and downtown, you have workforces all around here, you have worshipers and all sorts of us. This can be really special, not just for us, but for Atlanta. So we know how to do it, right? On our best days, this is how we use the backyard space, right? We can bring a food truck, we can hide Easter eggs, we can gather here and have an amazing time. So we know how to do this. What we're trying to do and envisioning with this project is to really create the infrastructure that promotes our best days behavior, so it's our everyday behavior. What if this is the norm for the park, right? Not the just one-off time, but this becomes the norm. And if we think about what that does for us, I know that I enjoy coming here. If I'm going through something difficult, I may walk through the park here. I came here for, after elections or before elections, or when I was going through things with my mom's health, and I just needed to feel connected to the church, and we weren't worshiping together. Just being here is sacred soil. It's really healing to me. And I think about the nurses, the doctors, the administrators at Emory Midtown. Can they come? I think about the entire workforce, right? Can this be a nourishing, healing, replenishing place, not just for us as members of St. Luke's, but for everybody, right? So it's really, how do we live into this space, right? So one thing we've been kicking around is this idea that it's like Canuga every day, right? Can we make that happen? So that's, right? And we can do that. So I guess a little thought experiment. Like, if I sent out an email to all of you and said, hey, we're going to meet on Peachtree Street somewhere, and we're going to sing some songs, and we're going to pray, and we're going to do these elaborate rituals, and we're going to have, communion. You don't just do that in the parking lot, or we don't do that in McDonald's, right? But like the way that we design spaces tells us how we can use those spaces, right? It gives us an invitation to live into this sacred activity with these spaces. So if we get some kind of old, Gothic architecture and these arches and certain kind of music, these are the cues that tell us this is a space where it's a holy space, and I'm going to commune with God and with my peers, right? And we can do the same thing outside. You've been to outside spaces that feel inviting and welcoming, and it's like a porch swing that is waiting for you, right? And then you've been to other places that feel a little sketchy, and you want to roll up your windows and keep driving quickly, right? Don't make eye contact, go, right? So we can do these things with design, and that's what's really special. We have this opportunity. So we have a list of bullet points. I don't know if you can read them, but this project is intended to be a catalytic project that unifies all these different parcels back there. We have the mustard seed garden. We have the park at St. Luke's. We have the area where we worship sometime. We have the parking area for our visitors, for our staff. All of these things are important things that we need to be able to do. But if you go back to Leviticus, there's a great importance to barbecuing and offering burnt sacrifice. So it's in there. I looked, it's in there. We're going to have that as part of this, right? The idea of, can we have a facility where it's easier to cook together, to eat together, to have fellowship together, to worship together. All these things that are us at our best, we're trying to design the right foundation, the right environment out there that really invites us to do that and shows us the way, right? So for those who can't see this, grilling could be smoking meat too for some barbecue aficionados. The idea of sharing food, conversing and laughing, right, and playing. This isn't just play for the kiddos. We get to play too, right? And spaces where we can gather, I would imagine in social, frolicking ways, in ways that we celebrate a wedding or a special occasion, or in ways that we're somber and serious and reflective. We want to be able to have a meeting there, Christian formation, worship, weddings, music, and all of this to complement the things that are already there, not just for us, but our whole midtown and downtown communities. And so many of our ministries focus on alleviating the needs of those who are in the most desperate situations and who are really suffering. I think what's interesting about this is that this is an additive thing. This is about unlocking joy and sharing, kind of giving this gift and uplifting, not just for those in, acute need, but all of us who are in this quiet need, right? Who thirst for a place to commune or relax or just eat a sandwich between a shift or a round at the hospital, right? This is a place where we want, if the, we want everybody to say, no, Winnie, Horace, I'm going to come to you guys. We want to hang out in the park, right? Like this is where we're going to hang out here because this is the cool place, right? So here's what we're imagining, and we really need your help on this. Next Sunday, October 2nd, is going to be this great design fair where we all get to, you can forget the word design, right? It's like, imagine the best possible future that you want to live into, right? And we're going to imagine that together and create it together. So we're going to gather ideas from every one of you, so please be present, come, grab a friend, and we really want youth and the kiddos involved. We're thinking about playscapes, so Jody's here and other landscape designers are going to be in part to show us, here's how you design and build things that get used, that really people play with. One thing Jimmy Cushman says, I don't care if, it could look like the Taj Mahal or it could look like a dirt track. I just want this playground equipment to get worn out. Like, we'll know we're successful if everything is broken and worn out and we have to replace it in 3 years, right? So it's all about not what it looks like, but how it's used. So we're involving the best people to do that, and people who are smarter than me are being really good stewards and kind of managing this fund and helping to shepherd and raise these funds so that we can bring this to life. But I'm super stoked to invite Jody Munsbach, who we've worked with in the past on so many cool projects, and I'm just so happy that you're here to lead us through this. All right, welcome, Jody.
Where's Wesley? Am I good? Yeah, okay. All right, I told them I move around a lot, so they gave me one of these. We'll see how it goes. If there's feedback or issues, I can stay still. Yeah, it is amazing. It is great to be with y'all this morning. I have said there's so many friendly faces out here, people that I live near, people my children went to Grady High School with. Wade and I have worked on, we seem to keep overlapping, which is interesting, on different projects, and of course, who everybody knows, so that's not anything exciting. But you're always good to see, and look at her smiling at me in the front row. And then Jackson Kane, who is currently teaching Sunday school, I am working on a project with him right now, actually. So I am Jewish, but I always say if I was Christian, this is where I would worship. 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. I've been to baptisms, I've been to Mardi Gras. This is my place. And it is fantastic that Jackson and Lord X Sargent are actually helping my synagogue do a master plan and vision our future, and that I'm here with y'all. So I love the way the communities circle and overlap. So it's just great to be here. So yeah, Scott alluded to the fact of the work that I've done in the past. Like most people, I'm on a journey. That journey actually started me in the museum world about 30 years ago. It led to a career in marketing. From there, as part of actually being president of the Morningside Civic Association, became very interested in urban planning. And at the age of 38, I think I finished when I was 40, I went to Georgia Tech and got my planning degree. That then led me to Jamestown, where I had the privilege of working on a very cool project down the street, as well as other projects in Charleston and throughout mainly their southeast projects. And that was where I built my first slide. I'd never built a slide before, but one day, like Wade was saying, what if always comes up, right? And we were working on the sign, the big Ponce City Market sign, and one of these stories about the back of the envelope kind of thing, and I was like, do you think we could just do, and everybody looked at me like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, really? And so fast forward, there's a slide on top of Ponce City Market. That was really wonderful. Through my work at Jamestown, actually, I had the privilege of working with our former Commissioner of Planning, Tim Keene, when he was in Charleston. So when he came to Atlanta, he and I teamed up on another project and started these urban design centers. But just like Wade was mentioning, the pandemic does weird things. That and becoming an empty nester. And those two things came together, and I was thinking about what I was doing, which at the time was actually leading a team over at the Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta. So my work did involve some physical design, but it was mainly grant making and just general management. And I wanted to do something fun again. And so that's where this kind of most recent iteration that I feel like weaves together everything I've done in the past 30 years came out of. I've had a wonderful mentor in this. Some of you may know her, Cynthia Gentry. If you don't know her, you have seen her work. That ATL sign in downtown, that playable sculpture, was something that she worked on. She's done some great preschool projects now over at the Y, over in Grove Park, and over right behind Mercedes-Benz. The Chastain Playground and Treehouse that unfortunately burned down recently were her projects. So I've kind of been training and learning and working with her over the last 2 years to kind of bring this piece of my work together. So this is a wonderful opportunity to do this in a faith-based environment, which is dear to me. And I am going to, that was a long background. So this is what we're doing, as Wade and Scott said. We are going to have a community design day. Like many people, the word design might be scary. But we're all designers, and we have a way to turn you all into designers that is not intimidating. So this is roughly the space that we're talking about. This is not done according to survey lines, but I just wanted to bring this image up to make it clear that we're going to spend most of our time looking around here. And then, this is also, we can dream in this other space, right, Scott? Am I saying this right? Okay. We can dream about this, but I think as a first phase, and for what Jimmy and the team and all are visioning, we're going to spend the majority of our time thinking around here. Okay? And so Wade went through a list of the different components, and I expect this list to grow next week. But we're starting with this renovation of the playground itself. The grill and smoker have been present from day one. I have heard a lot about this grill and smoker, which in full disclosure, my husband and Scott know each other over a project that they do every year that centers around a grill and smoker, so this is a part of my life already. We want to talk about those outdoor social gathering spaces. We want to talk about seating and conversational areas, and outdoor learning and worship. But from there, the sky's the limit. But that's where we're starting. So like I said, the playscape is the piece of the project I will be most focused on, although I will move around a little bit, but we have a landscape architect who will be primarily responsible for some of these other areas, but I'll be working with them. And so I want to talk a little about playing this morning. So when we think about playing and playgrounds, there are just a couple words that in my practice I want to evoke, and that always starts with wonder and curiosity. I love experimenting and discovery. These are just the elements I want to make sure are in every playscape we do. We want there to be cooperation and communication among people and children working together. This is actually an example. I don't know where exactly this is, but sometimes we think of playgrounds as having these permanent structures, but some of these loose parts actually, these pieces are made to be heavy enough that it requires 2 people to carry them, so that there is cooperation and communication, which is brilliant. Risk and resilience, right? So we try to take risk out of everything we do, and how can we add an element of risk? And it always has to be joyful and fun. Wade used those words, and my journey to this work is about joy and fun. So I agree with that. So before we go any farther, and you've heard from a lot of us in the last 20 minutes or so, I want to hear your story. Sometimes I put a slide in here, I forgot it. Now I'm thinking, which is my story. I just told you a 30-year story. But the slide I would have put in there is from when I'm 18 months old, and I'm in Anniston, Alabama, where my father was during the Vietnam War. And I am climbing this incredibly dangerous looking, what do you call those things? I don't even know what you call them. The climber. It's like a climber, metal, jungle gym, yeah. I'm 18 months old. I am way too high up for where I should be at 18 months. So I've definitely got the risk piece built in there. But there's so many things wrong with this picture, like if you looked at it today. So that's my story. I was always, as my mother says, going to new places, asking what if, etc. So what I'm going to ask us to do right now for the next 5 minutes is to turn to someone near you, 2s, 3s, 4s, whatever works. I have some prompts. Where did you play outside? What were your favorite things to do? At a playground, at school, at the park? Do you have any secret fun places? Oh, I didn't mention that. I then moved from Madison, Alabama, back to New Jersey. My favorite place to play was in these big sewer pipes near my house. And I've actually posted this question on different social media. A lot of people apparently played in sewer pipes. I was not there's one right there. Apparently I was not the only one. I thought that was strange, but looking back on it, and what are your happiest play memories? So can we take 5 minutes? I'm going to set my timer because I'm going to have a hard time stopping you. I have a feeling. You can answer one of these. You can answer all of these. But have some fun. Meet someone new if you can. If not, turn to someone you know and have a conversation. This is my timer. Hello? Hello? And one more time. Thank you, the whistler, whoever that was. I'm not going to, shh. Thank you, that was great to hear the buzz, the chatter. I want to be mindful of time, but I have to hear a few of these this week, just in case some of you aren't here next week. I would love to hear just a couple of them. Scott's going to run a microphone so we make sure our folks at home can hear us. Does anyone want to share anything that came up for you? Any memories? There's one. Yeah.
So I was raised on a farm. We moved out to it when I was quite young. And the thing that I really appreciated about it is I grew to love nature, but the enjoyment was combined with nourishment because we had flowering trees, pears and apples and blueberry bushes, and things that were not only engaging and that we loved and that we could climb around in or things like that, but that also provided nourishment forever. And they are still
Beautiful.
there. So.
Really beautiful. Thank you. A few others?
I recently went to the 350-acre botanical gardens in Maine. And part of it was wooded, and we do have trees out here. And they had a fairy garden. So at the base of the trees, kids would build these, with sticks and things, these little fairy houses. And I just thought it was the most clever, creative, innovative thing, and I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
But I propose a fairy garden for St.
Yeah,
Luke's
I
Park.
actually have that as one of our activities for next week. I've been to that fairy garden. I know exactly where you mean it.
Fabulous.
It's one of our activities. We call it fairy dragons and dragon forts or something to make it a little more gender neutral. So, yes, I love that activity. One more?
Over here. I grew up on a farm too. Pecan trees were my favorite trees to climb. How about you? They were the best for climbing, absolutely.
And carving initials in.
Oh. Okay, well, I want to be mindful of the time. We have a way to capture these stories next week from you in video, in audio, and so please do continue to think about this question and share with us next week. We're going to make, yeah? There will be ways to share feedback and to even make a little video recording your thing. Yes, we use a great tool called Flip. I don't know if anybody's used Flip yet, but Flip is a great way to bring all your voices together. And so we'll be doing that. Okay, let me just tell you, guess what? this is not what we're going to do. There's so many things wrong with this, I can't even start. But, the fact that they flatten the earth, you have some beautiful hills and topography over there, and we love that, as well as the trees. So we're not going to flatten it. It's not going to be one put whole structure together. We spread things out. We use nature. That's a better rendition. This is a preschool setting of something that Cynthia actually did this project, but a much better example. And then, this is the type of, when we get to equipment, we love natural woods, for example. We love swings. Somebody said swing earlier. I cannot say enough things about swings for all ages, for older kids, for younger kids. We have a joke in our practice that how many kids can you fit on one of these Nest swings? And the answer is, 2 kids this age, and then by the time you get to teenagers, like 7 or 8 piled in one of these swings. They just pile. And then Josh, who we'll be working with, this is an example of something he's done recently up near Athens, another example of his work. So we're going to be a great team working together, putting our ideas together. And then we're going to talk about seating. The things that have happened in seating in the last 5-10 years, honestly, the High Line really set a whole new bar for public space and seating. And we're using this curvy bench for a project right now. And there's just so much you can do. A park bench does not need to be in a straight line. And they don't need to be just sitting by themselves looking out at no one. So we're going to be thinking about those social spaces and human-centered design. So what we're going to do, Community Design Day, next week again. This is an example of Community Design Day that Cynthia did in Chastain. And what I love about this, the story she always tells, is that she had a concept that they were going to take the boxes and do this whole box city idea, and it's this urban planner trick where you give people cardboard boxes and they make towns out of them. She got it all set up. She said, go. After 10 minutes, she looked over. All the adults were making box city. All the kids were over here figuring out how to make a slide. And that became this. It became this. And it became this because one of the kids drew it. The kid said, I want to race my brother on a slide. And so she ended up building it. So it's just a really fun thing to do, to get ideas from everywhere and to pay attention to how people play in the space, which is why we'll be out there, hopefully, in the space, because you just feel it completely differently when you're there. This is roughly what we're going to do. We're still tweaking our schedule, but we expect 10:30 people can start arriving. Around 11, we're going to gather together and look at some imagery together of potential, tell us what you like, what you don't like. For people who really don't want to draw or even write words down, you can just use a sticker. That's easy. We'll do a small playground build around 11:15. We will, whoever's there, do a quick debrief. It's always good to debrief. And everybody wins an award, sorry. I'm not usually of the idea that everybody should win an award, but everyone, don't want anybody to be intimidated about their drawings. And we'll wrap, okay? And I think Scott will address the fact that people can come, go, right?
Right, yeah, people can come and go, and we know this is during the 11... Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, people can come and go. We know this is during the 11:15 service, and if you've got service you have to do there and you've got other ideas you don't feel have come out properly, we'll schedule another session after the second to try to make sure that we gather anybody's input who hasn't felt like they've had an opportunity to be heard. But we had to get started somewhere, and this is a great day with Jody here and hopefully a lot of us together, but we'll catch up where we have a hole.
Great.
And hey, well,
I have a couple more. Or do
oh,
you wanna,
go. No, you keep going.
Go? Okay, I'm going to go. So, and then the circles, those overlapping circles I talked about of people's lives. In walk Martha and Van. It just kills me. We go way back to that story I told you about the Morningside Civic Association, because guess who was president before me? That lady, young lady right there, and that's what led me through this part of this journey. And then her daughter, Adelaide, and I are working on a project, Atlanta Housing, together. So the whole next set of photos I'm going to show you actually are from a project I did with her, which I didn't even know that she was going to walk in the door. So this is what we did. This is the activity, Color Your Dreams. It's got markers, it's got a prompt, and the kids love it. Adults can do it too. That was that sheet that we always come up with. You know, this is me playing, how I feel when I play. And then this swing, he actually, you always say to a kid, anybody in child development knows, tell me about your picture, not try to guess what it is. This is a swing. He wanted it to be a colorful swing. And so there you go. This is the gallery we set up in this particular space on the west side. We'll set up a gallery here as well with photos that are appropriate for what we anticipate could work here. We will have a space, like I said, where you can tell your own story, like a booth. Think of it as like a little StoryCorps booth, where you can share your own memories of playing. We will do some of the loose parts because people, they actually do it. Those kids ran over and made a slide, but some interesting stuff happens when you do that. Play spaces also have quiet spaces, and so this particular project came with a little bit of a directive that it would have a book nook, but I have to tell you, ever since I've done that project, I've always believed that there should be contemplative and quiet parts, and so we'll probably bring this back as well. And when we're done, just a little bit about the process after we finish next week, and Scott and Caroline will tell you more, but we'll do one of those classic word clouds where we'll balance, see what words come up. These are the words that really emerged out of that last project. We'll look at how everything got ranked and use that as another input. We'll come up with a list of the elements, like the pieces that we want to be a part of it before we start designing, and we'll come back to you and say, did we hear you? Does this feel right? And then we'll start drawing. So that's how you can help. Next Sunday, bring your kids. If you have teens or tweens who want to be interviewers or volunteer, I'll do the community service forms, or you all can do them. Contact me, contact the team here, and that's it.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Jody. That was fabulous. Okay, so as we're wrapping up here, I realize that we have Elkin Taylor has been able to join us today. So let me just ask her to come forward, and I will tell you that all the stuff about her brother that he came up with would not have ever happened if they hadn't gotten together to figure out how to honor their mother. So thank you, Elkin, for everything. Okay, and a couple things that Caroline's got to wrap us up, so thank you.
All right, so just a few things. For next Sunday, we do want all the children and youth there, and I'm working with Isabel to make sure, bring them to Sunday school, and the Sunday school classrooms will come out, so you do not have to be monitoring your children during this whole process. So we want you actively participating also. And like Jody said, there will be plenty of opportunities to provide feedback. We have next week, but then we will follow up on any sort of gaps. And once they come out with these amazing designs, you will also have an opportunity to provide input. All right, thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you.